So if avarice is your goal, I'm sorry, Cardano is probably the worst of all ecosystems to bet on. I think the biggest problem with cryptocurrencies is that people are obsessed with this idea of getting rich fabulously fast. They love the concept that they can put $1 in and somehow that magically, through no work of their own, turns into $100. And I got news for you. And every single industry where that occurs, only a very small group of people get fabulously lucky and everybody else loses their money. So if that's your goal, that's what you seek to do, where you want to go with all of this, 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to end up broke. Just like the gold prospectors in the 1840s and 1850s, traveling to Colorado, traveling to California, seeking silver and gold. It's absolutely true. A few of them did find it. The vast majority of them did not, and they ended up suffering because of it. So if avarice is your goal, I'm sorry, Cardano is probably the worst of all ecosystems to bet on, because we look at things in long time horizons, years to decades, and we look at things that perhaps are not going to be beneficial to my company, but to the people who come after. Because we know that if we get it right by 2050, 2100, we can be a dominant financial operating system, a protocol like TCP/IP that is ubiquitous, and the majority of identity, value, and governance of the world is run in that particular respect. And it's so unhealthy when people have such myopia and a short-term view on these types of things. And unfortunately, it's predominant throughout the entire ecosystem. There are so many people in the Bitcoin ecosystem who think that Bitcoin is successful because it reached $1 trillion market cap. And I will give them credit that having a market cap up to scale of nation states like Australia is a pretty impressive achievement. But when you take stock of what does Bitcoin provide to the world in terms of use and utility, I cannot embed identity into transactions easily. It's quite hard to do that without trusting a centralized overlay service. I can't issue a token. It doesn't really have good smart contracting capabilities. I can't do complex financial contracts. I can't do pull payments. It takes a long time for a transaction to settle, and transaction fees are quite high. So then you have to ask yourself, if you are a nation state looking to run governance as a service and parts of its economy, why in God's name would you choose a platform like that? And then the argument is, well, it's real secure because we got proof of work. We did the work as an ecosystem building a better engine. We went from the steam engine that is proof of work, decimating the forests of Europe, to nuclear power. We built something different with proof of stake. And we did the work, 102 papers worth of work, peer review at major venues, to show that that engine is safe, effective, and real. The response the Bitcoin space has is, it's not. Trust us. We have this paper this Andrew guy wrote, and therefore you're wrong. Nothing on the merits, nothing on the science. That's like saying, I see your nuclear reactor, but I don't understand nuclear physics, so I'm quite comfortable with my steam engine, and that's a scam. And I show them the energy output, and they say, that's not real energy. Ours is the real energy. Keep cutting down the trees. Why is Bitcoin taken seriously, even though it's the least advanced of all ecosystems? It's because it's the most valuable. So unfortunately, token price tends to confer a level of legitimacy that it should not. I look at Ergo. I look at Algorand. I look at Avalanche. I look at a lot of these projects that are not in the top 10. And I say they bring so much more to the table than some who are. Because the vision, the team, the capabilities and capacities of these systems are extraordinary. And frankly speaking, I think these systems over a long arc, if they can stay alive and get adoption, will be far more useful than the things that are currently in the top 10. Okay. And so that's always been my opinion on the matter. And I just think it's important because we have so many new people flooding into the Cardano ecosystem because of our recent popularity and notoriety and the podcaster of the week making bold proclamations about getting rich quick, that we make a video kind of talking about the difference between price and value as I see it. Now, it's a decentralized ecosystem. There are over 2,000 stake pool operators running at the moment, making us more decentralized, in my view, than any other cryptocurrency. There are over 16,000 people who are voting, working day by day in Catalyst, getting those training wheels, because very soon Catalyst will consume the entire governance stack, including system parameters, and they're developing strong opinions on everything from K to A0 to minimum transaction fees, resource consumption, and these types of things. Okay, so not only is it decentralized in terms of block production and network and resilience in terms of full node distribution and so forth, but it's definitely decentralized, and there's actual decision tools built into the system itself for the community to decide where to go. And we as custodians, what we've done tirelessly over the years has been very aggressively pushing to try to make those tools better. If not in-house, then through partnerships like the European Union Horizons 2020 grant that we got with IBM and Guard Time, or partnerships with Governance Alive, or other things, or bringing in accelerators and incubators and so forth, and trying to bring people up. It's a very different ecosystem than it was even just a year ago when the stake pool pioneers were doing their job. And that trend will continue. But nowhere in that is there a mandate from my company or the foundation or someone else to find a way to get ADA to $2 or $3 or $4 or $5. Now, being a decentralized ecosystem, somebody may wake up and that's their goal. Okay. And I'm saying right here, right now, I have no desire to work with that person. I'm not going to talk to that person. It's not my prerogative. It's not something I think about or do. And I don't participate in those conversations. Now, I've gotten those emails, usually from shady marketing firms that say, oh, well, give us some money and we'll create a Telegram group and we'll do this and pump this up. And I usually reply with something that came from my Italian ancestors. Vaffanculo basically translates to go fuck yourself. But it's a very concise way of saying it and a very direct way of saying it. And that's the end of the conversation. Now, if you email me about an NFT marketplace, you email me about an Oracle, a DEX, a stablecoin, now we're talking. That's real stuff. That's real infrastructure. And we'll actually have a business model meeting. Recently, we had a meeting, for example, with the Artano people. The first meeting, I said, here's a class from Coursera on business model canvases. Come back after you've taken it. And they did. A week later, they came back and showed me a business model canvas. I said, that's a good start, but there's a long way to go. More to discuss. Come back in a bit. We'll talk about it more offline. And I'll talk to the other 5 people who've applied for Catalyst funds for NFT marketplaces, because I think that's so fascinating and interesting. And that's how I want to spend my time. Now, whether ADA is a cent or ADA is $1 or $10, let me be clear. This is my life's work. I'm going to keep chipping away at it. I'm going to keep working at it. We're here. Technically, contractually, we estimated 5 years. It's 2021. 5 years was 2020. I'm still here. My dev teams cost me millions of dollars every single month to keep writing code and keep building for this ecosystem. And we're going to keep doing it until we feel that we're at a position where the community can decide on the roadmap for 2025. Right now, we all kind of agree. It's probably a good idea to get full peer-to-peer. Probably a good idea to get full smart contracts. Probably a good idea to have a sensible sidechain model. It's probably a good idea to have the community vote on all the system parameters and hard forks and be in control of the update system and so forth. And that's all happening and likely will all get done this year. And until it gets done, that's my bill to bear and my burden to bear. And I don't complain about it. I'm happy about it. But moving beyond that, there's a very real conversation about what happens next. Where do we want to be in 5 years? Now, I have a view about that, but it's not my decision. It's your decision. The point of a great ecosystem, the point of a great community, the point of having all this investment and time, and why ADA is really worth as much as it is the fact that there are actual people who aren't me who are qualified to make that decision. The best thing Satoshi ever did was get out of the picture for Bitcoin. And the best thing we can do is make sure that the vision for Cardano 2025 is a community project and the collective intelligence converges to something far better that any one company can do. So it's my job to make sure that the social dynamics, the infrastructure and tools, the level of participation, the meaning of participation, the quality of conversations are at a state where that actually happens. Otherwise, you just have shit posting on Reddit, Bitcoin Cash versus Bitcoin, the big block debate, and we'll see a Cardano Classic or a Cardano Cash. And my life's work is for nothing. And we'll stick around and make sure that that gets done. And they ask, well, what happens after that? Where does Charles go? I'm still here. And you know what will happen is we'll likely be doing more work in 2023 and 2024 and 2025 than we're doing today. But the totality of all the work being done is an order of magnitude or greater than what's being done today, which means relative to the rest of the actors, we actually have a smaller role. And that's the point. Microsoft is a gargantuan company. Google is a gargantuan company. The same for Apple. But even if you add all three of them together, Microsoft, Apple, and Google, these three companies cannot speak for the internet. They have a role. They build web browsers. They have collectively billions of users and certainly can have some influence over the way that you experience the internet. But they certainly can't go and say, TCP/IP is done. Let's replace it with something else. Even if they wanted to. They could spend 10 years trying, as Google has done with Quick, and they can make very little progress. Or what Google has done with Dart and make very little progress, all things considered. And that is the point of true decentralization and where we're trying to get this protocol in what is going to be maximally useful. And only then, after we've achieved that, will we see nation states trust this protocol to a point where they're willing to entrust it with their voting system.